Welcome to Midweek Experiments in Faithfulness. Midweek Experiments in Faithfulness is a weekly program where we learn and grow with each other right here in community. Each week, we engage a unique and meaningful topic or spiritual practice that we can incorporate into our own lives. My name is Brent. I am the Program and Engagement Manager here at Beacon Hill Friends House. We are a Quaker Center for Learning in Boston, Massachusetts. We're home to Beacon Hill Friends Meeting, and we are a residential community of about 20 people, all living together in this big, glorious house. Tonight's presentation is about the Enneagram Type Two. It is a deep dive, one in a series of deep dives that we're doing on each of the Enneagram types. I also have put out a video of an overview of the Enneagram. In case you're not familiar with the Enneagram, you can go back and watch that. It's called Why We Clash, Why We Click. But tonight is about the Enneagram Type Two. Type Twos are fueled by a deep desire to feel needed, loved, and connected to others. What's really going on beneath the surface? In this midweek, we'll take a closer look at the Enneagram Type Two. You'll learn what motivates this type, what they fear, and why their drive to help often comes with an unspoken need for appreciation. We'll explore the incredible strengths that make Type Twos such compassionate caregivers. We'll see their challenges with boundaries and self-worth, and how they balance their desire to care for others with the need to care for themselves. Whether you are a Type 2 yourself, love someone who is, or just want to better understand this unique personality type, this session will leave you with insights and tools to appreciate their perspective and support their journey. Here we are with the Enneagram Type 2. Welcome to you all. We'll do this deep dive into the Type 2, and we'll start here with an overview. The Type 2 is the walking, talking love dispenser of the Enneagram. Helping isn't just about obligation for a Type 2. Many types like to help people, but they all have different reasons. And so for the Type 2, it really is about feeling valued. Their inner mantra is, if you need me, I'll be there. Please need me, which is cute until it becomes exhausting. They have bottomless generosity, but they also have some hidden expectations, which can be problematic. At their core, the twos want to be undeniably deeply loved and appreciated. Their ultimate truth is this: I am worthy of love whether I earn it or not. And let me tell you, when a Type 2 fully embodies that, it is life-changing for them. Suddenly they're helping because they want to, not because they need to. Some quirks about the lovely Type 2s in our lives. Twos don't just show up in your life, they embed themselves. They're the ones who will literally pause their vacation to help you move because it's no big deal. Really, I'm happy to do it. If they really love you, they will adopt you. It's not uncommon for a Type 2 to adopt other fully functioning humans who are unrelated, but they will just start giving them names, family names, sister, brother, mom, dad, just because they are all about family connection. When you're sad, a Type 2 will likely arrive unannounced with snacks and emotional support beverages. They are very intuitive, very empathetic. Gratitude is their love language. They may express it in writing, such as thank you notes, because then you can always go back and read it and remember how loved you are. Let's talk about hugs. Twos don't just hug you, they hug you with the exact amount of squeeze that your soul needs. They are hug experts. If you have a two in your life, just know that you will never be alone, unfed, or without a surplus of cuddles and affection. The core motivation for a two is the two's deepest need and desire to be loved and appreciated. The important part is that it be genuine, though. They can usually tell if a compliment is authentic or not. They can sense BS a mile away. They cannot relax if they know that someone they care about is struggling, and they don't want to just help. Many twos want to be completely indispensable. They thrive on knowing that they've made a difference, and they feel the most alive when they are indeed making someone else's life better. They really know how to make people feel special, but sometimes they don't know how to set boundaries around that. They notoriously overgive, overdo, and overextend. So if you have a two in your life, it's important not to take advantage of your type two. Their ultimate goal is to be the most generous, caring, and irreplaceable person in every relationship. If they feel overlooked, they can take it very personally. Their underlying fears, feeling unloved or unwanted, is so painful to a two that they might even make excuses for the person that they wish they felt more love coming from. For instance, my husband works so hard and is just so busy to be too busy to be affectionate, because the truth, if indeed the truth is that they are not as loved as they want to be, it can be a dagger to the heart. If their generosity is one sided, they can start to feel used and unappreciated. And unfortunately, this is sometimes the case for a type two. That's because they need to be needed. And if they don't feel needed, they wonder if they're just a decoration around here. Twos are very sensitive about their help, and outright rejection can really do a number on them. As much as twos can be frustrating with all of their unsolicited advice, they would rather walk barefoot on Legos than feel like a burden. If they suspect that they're causing you frustration, they will likely make themselves scarce and not come around as often. They might book a vacation if they live with you, or if they don't live with you, you might not see them as often. They'd much rather offer support than ask for it. Help Helping makes them feel in control. Receiving help might make them feel like a burden. The real challenge for a two is trusting that their presence, not just their service, is enough. That love doesn't have to be earned, bartered, or repaid. Every type has strengths and challenges, and the two is no different. Twos have a knack for making you feel like the most important person in the room. If you're talking with a two, you're likely getting unbroken eye contact when you talk. They listen to every word you say, and they will often remember everything you said. And they also remember the little things like your favorite coffee order or that random story you told them 6 months ago that you completely forgot about, or remembering exactly what you need when you're having a bad day. Twos are some of the most emotionally supportive people you'll ever meet. They are often deeply empathic, helping them to pick up on subtle shifts in energy or mood, and they will ask you about it if they sense that shift. But intuition can be exhausting. They might feel emotions that don't belong to them, and then they wonder why they can't stop crying. So you might walk into the kitchen and find your favorite type two sobbing at the table. And when you ask them what's wrong, they might look up confused and say, I have no idea. This is why it's a good idea for a two to protect their energy and create emotional boundaries to help them discern which emotions are theirs and which belong to someone that they love. Unfortunately, help can be a fancy cloak for control. They also might struggle to know when they are empowering someone versus enabling them. So this is a little bit slippery here because they really, really have good intentions and they want to help. But sometimes that help looks like I am here to control the situation. If you do everything I say, everything will be fine. And absolutely listen and follow all of my advice. They will also shower someone with help when that person looks like they need it or feels like they need it, whether they ask for it or not. And sometimes it can feel like someone is hijacking, like the type two is actually hijacking the situation when uninvited. So it can be really tricky to navigate this. Sometimes the type two will help ad nauseum, really kind of robbing the other person of the opportunity to do their own problem solving. So, when a type two is offering help, they need to ask themselves, are they helping so that that other person can grow, or are they helping so much that the other person doesn't actually have to stand on their own? Establishing boundaries and finding balance is the key to making their kindness sustainable for themselves and for everyone around them. Twos in love. There is nothing that gives a two more joy than being in love. And they don't do things halfway when it comes to the heart. Twos show love by doing things, fixing things, moving things, cooking, cleaning, acts of service are a primary love language for a two. When I was married, one of my wife's favorite Christmas gifts was when I spent hours in the kitchen scrubbing her baking pans until they sparkled. It was something that I just wanted to do to be nice, and I decided to make it a Christmas gift. Um, I am a type two, and so it doesn't surprise me that that occurred to me to do a thing for Christmas instead of giving a thing. Love letters, surprise trips, fixing the broken thing in your house before you even realize it's broken. Those are things that a type two will do just naturally. Twos don't do casual affection. If they care about you, they invest everything. That means that if you ask your favorite type two to hide their love, it can be soul killing for them. That is often why a type two resists something like a clandestine affair, because they really just want to shower their loved one with love out loud. What makes them angry? Twos don't actually get mad very easily unless or until they feel unappreciated. Twos don't just help out of kindness, they help because it's how they express love. So if they feel taken for granted, it really stings. Twos can cope with physical distance if they have to, but they will not do well with emotional distance. If they feel emotionally separated, they'll start to lose that sense of belonging that they really depend on. They need the phone calls, the text messages, and that heart to heart connection. Twos give their whole heart, but they also expect that in return. So if someone is just phoning it in, they'll pick up on it and it will really, really rock their world in a negative way. So what do type twos do when they're angry? How do they express it? Twos don't do anger the same way that many people do. Instead of confronting it head on, they sometimes go through stages as if trying to figure out how they really feel. They might start by denying it, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not mad. They might try to get control of the situation through something like a guilt trip or manipulation, perhaps the silent treatment. Uh, The exact way that that looks is different for everyone. So there's not like a recipe that a two has in order to express anger, but it can come out in kind of a sideways way. They might emotionally withdraw to protect themselves, or they might play martyr when somebody asks them what's wrong. It's just hard being the only one who knows how to talk about feelings around here. But ultimately, if nothing else works, they will dig in their heels, get stubborn, and they can become verbally aggressive. Rarely do they ever become physically aggressive. Why do they do this? It takes the two a long time to demonstrate their anger. Part of why that is because they worry if they express anger, they'll lose people's love. If you ask them outright, they might not even realize that this is happening. But if you dig into it, they are so concerned that if they express their true feelings, perhaps it will be seen as too much. And also, remember, they hate being a burden. And so sometimes their heavy emotions can seem too heavy for the person that they are having them with. So anger feels very risky to a two. So instead, they push their own needs aside. They might even deny they even have needs until they can't deny it any longer. Twos hate conflict because it feels unproductive and unhelpful. When they're mad, it creates this internal crisis. Am I a bad person for feeling this way? At the core, their identity revolves around being kind. So instead of standing up for themselves, they swallow their anger until they explode. They don't just help because they like it, they help because it's who they are. They express love through helping. And if their help is rejected, it feels like you're rejecting them. What gives two joy? I like to say that twos thrive in warm climates, spaces where people freely express love, affection, and connection. Being around open hearted people is absolutely bliss for a two. Being so empathic and intuitive means that negative energy can be very hard for a two, which means that you're going to find them spending most of their time with people that they can be light and easy with. And twos actually really light up when they feel appreciated. To hear someone say, I don't know what I would do without you, will light them up in a heartbeat. Moments of deep connection really fill their cup. They'll stay up all night long for the opportunity to go deep with someone. And let's not forget that thoughtful twos love it when someone else is thoughtful too. They don't just want to give love, they want to receive it as well. And thoughtfulness goes a long way with a two. The sweet spot for a two is when they are feeling needed but not used. They want to be valued for who they are, not just what they do. A two at work. In the workplace, twos are cheerful, warm, helpful, and thoughtful. They're the ones who make work feel like home, remembering birthdays, bringing snacks, hyping you up before that big presentation, encouraging. They're also fixers. If you're struggling, they will jump in to solve your problems, even if you don't ask, which can be problematic or it can be very helpful. They probably have about 25 different ways to help you if you just get out of the way. Twos thrive on words of affirmation. A simple, you're so helpful, will keep them glowing for days. But be warned, even in the workplace, they cannot say no. It's just so hard for them. They struggle to say no until they're absolutely drowning. So Please don't take advantage of a two's willingness to do absolutely everything because they will get burnt out. Find someone else who can step in when the two is getting a little worn thin. Help them set those boundaries. And if they decide to finally start setting some boundaries, they will come up with a long list of reasons why those boundaries need to be set. They will talk for a long time and over explain why this boundary has to be set because they feel really bad about the fact that they're telling you no. Arrows and wings, how we move around the Enneagram. Every type does this. It is one of the beautiful things about the Enneagram. We do not get stuck in a box. We go traveling on adventures, taking tours of other numbers. It's helpful to know how we grow, adapt, and react under stress. This is where our arrows and our wings come in. Wings are about the type the numbers on either side of you. Your main Enneagram type is central to your personality, but your wings, the ones that flank your type, influence how you express your main number. That's why two people of the same Enneagram type can look so different. Some people lean strongly toward one wing or the other, and others use both of them at different times. Then you have the arrows. Each type has two more numbers that it connects to, the number that it moves to in growth or strength, and the number it moves to in stress. This explains why we don't act the same way all the time. Under pressure, we can slip into the struggles of our stress number, but when we're thriving, we gain strength from our growth number. When you start understanding these various movements, you can start to see the Enneagram as a map that people use to navigate situations instead of a box that people are stuck in. By paying attention to these movements, we gain self awareness, balance, and the ability to make intentional choices instead of reacting on autopilot. So let's start by going to the 8 in stress. When a 2 is feeling overwhelmed, overworked, or feels unappreciated, they shift to type 8 behavior. This isn't always bad. Type 8s are known to be aggressive, but sometimes this is exactly what the 2 needs in order to survive the situation. But it can also get much more intense than a 2 is used to being. Here are some ways that that might look. Beneath the velvet glove is an iron fist. They start setting boundaries. They start learning the word no. They enforce the rules. They lay down the law. It's like somebody flipped a switch and they go from sweetheart to commander. They start, their indirectness turns into a frontal approach. They stand up, they look you in the eye, and these normally warm and subtle twos will start speaking very boldly, very directly, and they'll stop sugarcoating everything. They'll confront you, sometimes aggressively, and they are not afraid to dig in their heels. They will get stubborn and they may even get rude. And the thing is that they have suppressed their emotions for so long that they just can't do it anymore. Sometimes they act out their anger or impatience. All those suppressed feelings come bubbling up, sometimes in an explosion of frustration. And it usually takes everyone by surprise. Not even the 2 will see it coming, since it's not how they typically show up in the world. Sometimes the 2 can feel very bad about behaving in this way because they see it as something that may cause a burden for someone. But by the time they get to the 8 in stress, they have had it. While stepping into this energy can help the 2 set boundaries and reclaim their power, if they stay here for too long, it can make them harsh and domineering and disconnected from the relationships that they cherish. So recognizing this shift early can help the twos course correct before they start burning bridges with the people that they love. Going to the four in their strength is what happens when they feel really confident and on top of their game. They move toward the healthiest aspects of the type four. And this is a big deal because instead of just taking care of everyone else, they finally start taking care of themselves. They pay attention to their own needs. Fours are really good at self care. Instead of running on empty, they start taking rests, and they do that without feeling guilty. They start asking for help. They realize that their worth isn't tied to how much they give. They expand their self expression. Twos are usually focused outward on making other people happy. But in growth, they turn inward and start exploring their own emotions and their creativity and their artistic expression, whether it's journaling, painting, coloring, getting lost in music. They allow themselves to just be rather than do all the time. They start to embrace that whimsical romance. Instead of being the responsible giver in relationships, they allow themselves to play and dream and experience joy without an agenda. They loosen their grip on the practicality and let a little magic come into their life. When a two steps into this four energy, their love becomes richer and more sustainable and more authentic because they're giving from a place of wholeness, not obligation. Now let's look at the wings. We're going to start with the two with a one wing. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of this slide, you'll see a 2W1. That is how it is. That's how it looks. That it can be read as two wing one, and it can be pronounced two with a one wing. When a two has a one wing, their kindness comes with a sense of duty and principle. They don't just help because they want to be loved, they help because it's the right thing to do. There's a deep moral core to this wing. They're not just warm and affectionate, they're also structured and responsible, and they can be a little perfectionistic. This makes them a little less clingy and more conscientious than some of the other twos that we see in the world. Instead of focusing on being liked, they actually focus on being useful. If you happen to be making questionable choices, they'll let you know, but in a polite way. Let me gently educate you while I refill your coffee kind of way. And while they might not be outright controlling, they definitely have a way of subtly nudging you towards what they think is best. They won't demand compliance, but suddenly you'll find yourself eating healthier, making ethical choices, maybe reading the book that they recommended. At their best, a two with a one wing blends integrity and service. They want to make a real difference in the world. They care less about pleasing everyone and more about helping in a way that aligns with their values. They are the helpers with a mission. Then we have the two with a three wing. When a two leans into their three wing, they keep all that warmth and generosity of the other twos, but now there's an extra layer of charm and ambition and strategy in the mix. These image conscious twos aren't just about helping, they also want to look good while doing it. They are less self sacrificing and more success oriented. They still want to be needed, but they also want to be recognized for their generosity. They're still very thoughtful, but they want you to know and acknowledge that they're being thoughtful. They're persuasive and personable, knowing exactly how to read the room and win people over. Their ability to make themselves indispensable is unmatched. And let's talk about overextending. They still say yes to too many things, but they make it look effortless, unlike a two with a one wing who gets a little bogged down in duty. They'll juggle projects, plan events, and somehow still show up looking polished, probably with a color coded planner in hand. The two with a three wing is the ultimate charismatic giver, helping others, excelling in their goals, and making sure they shine while they do it. Just a reminder that someone might lean heavily on the three or the one wing, or sometimes they can kind of have a balanced relationship with both wings. So, not every two is alike, and not every two necessarily leans on one wing heavier than the other, but most often they will lean on one wing more than the other, still being influenced by both. We have subtypes. Every type has three subtypes, and the subtypes are called self-preservation, social, and sexual. And the sexual is sometimes called one to one. So these subtypes will give more flavor to the main personality. Each of the two's subtypes give their two their own style of giving and connecting. The self preservation two is the most practical and resourceful of the bunch. They show love by meeting real world needs, like cooking a meal or fixing something that's broken or making sure you have what you need. They'll take care of you, but they also expect you to notice and appreciate it. The social two is the ultimate connector. These twos thrive in community, making friendships look effortless. They're warm, engaging, and they are the friendliest person in the room. But their generosity sometimes comes with a catch. They can be image conscious, wanting to be seen as the giver. And then we have the sexual two, operating in an intense one-on-one connections and relationships. They'd much rather work one-on-one than in a group. These twos don't just want to help, they want to be your person, and they will pour everything into you. They're fiercely loyal, deeply emotional, and sometimes they can be a little dramatic. But if they are invested, you will know it. Each subtype shares the two's core need to be loved and to love, but the way they go about it is just a little bit different. Now, let's just see how much two energy you have. This quiz is designed to help you see if type 2 is a strong part of who you are. You'll read 15 statements that reflect the typical thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of a type 2. For each one, you'll rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 meaning not at all true and 5 meaning very true. And then we'll tally up the score and see if you win a type 2 identity certificate. I have copied the scale over to the next two slides so you can remember which number stands for which score. Now, this isn't a test. This is just an awareness tool. So some might score high and think, "Yep, that's me." And others might see glimpses of themselves but lean more towards some other type on the Enneagram. Either way, the goal is to better understand what drives you and maybe even spot where some of your behaviors come from. So be honest with yourself, and let's see if the type 2 is central to how you operate. Are you ready? All right. I'm going to go ahead and read all of these out. So feel free to read them yourself or listen to me. Number one, my genuine concern for others makes me deeply involved with their hopes, dreams, and needs. Number two, it feels natural to be friendly. I strike up conversations easily, and I'm on a first name basis with everyone. 3. I have found that people respond warmly to me when I give them some attention and encouragement. 4. I cannot see a stray dog in the street without wanting to bring it home. 5. I feel good about the fact that I'm a thoughtful, generous person. 6. It's hard for me to take credit for the many things I've done for people, but it bothers me a lot when they don't seem to notice or care. 7. It's true that I often do more for others than I should. I give away too much and do not think of myself enough. 8. I often find myself trying to win people over, especially if they initially seem indifferent to me. 9. I take special joy in entertaining and hosting my friends and extended family. 10. I can be warm and supportive, but there is more steel in me than others might think. 11. I am able to express my feelings for people more openly than most. 12. I make special efforts to know what's going on with the people I care about. 13. I see myself as something of a healer of broken hearts. 14. I love to go above and beyond to make people feel welcomed and appreciated. 15. My health and finances have frequently suffered because I have put other people's needs and interests before my own. All right. So tally up your scores for those 15 statements for the type 2. There's a typo on this screen. It should say type 2. Your result will be between 15 and 75. The following guidelines may help you discover or confirm your personality type. If you have 15, you are probably not a type 1 or a 2 or a 6. If you got between 16 and 30, you are probably not a type 2. If you got a 31 to 45, you most probably have some similar challenges as the type 2 and or have a type 2 parent. 46 to 60, you most likely have a 2 component, meaning that you have a 2 as an arrow or a wing or as your dominant number. And then 61 to 75, you are most likely a type 2. But you could still be another type if you are thinking too narrowly about the 2. Why this caution about thinking too narrowly? Before you fully claim the type 2 title, let's take a step back and talk about why this process requires a little caution. It's easy to mistype yourself if you're only looking at behavior rather than motivation. The Enneagram isn't just about what you do, it's about why you do it. Two people can behave in similar ways, but be driven by completely different core needs. You also might be picturing the stereotypical two, the ultra nurturing, selfless caregiver, always baking cookies and offering emotional support, but not every two fits that image. Twos can be bold and driven, even a little competitive. Some express their care through acts of service, while others do it through encouragement and loyalty or strategic support. So if you've dismissed the idea of being a two because you're not a total caregiver, take a second look. The real question isn't, do I help people? Because a lot of people help people. It's, do I feel a deep need to be loved and appreciated for what I give? If that hits home, you may have more two energy than you thought. At the end of the day, the Enneagram is about self-awareness, not labels. Mistyping happens all the time, and twos are no exception. They often confuse themselves with fours, sevens, and ones. Fours because they feel deeply, sevens because they're people focused and fun loving, and ones because they have a strong sense of duty. On the flip side, nines, sixes, and sevens sometimes mistake themselves for twos. Nines because they're supportive, sixes because they're loyal caretakers, and sevens because they're socially engaging. So if you're on the fence, you can look closer at some of these other numbers and compare the motivations that they have for showing up the way they do. It's important for us to know that we all have some type 2 energy inside of us. So even if you don't identify as a type 2, chances are you've felt inclined to help, support, and be needed at some point in your life. These reflection questions aren't about labeling yourself, they're about recognizing the ways you show up for others. And just importantly, how that impacts you. Have you ever given too much, struggled to set boundaries, or felt unappreciated? That's the type 2 energy at play in your life. So take a moment to reflect, not just on how you care for others, but on how well you allow others to care for you. Sympathy with the type 2s in your life. Perhaps you are not a type 2, but you have someone in your life that you recognize all over this presentation. We've talked a lot about what it feels like to be a type 2, but now let's think about the people in your life who you suspect might be a type 2. The ones who always show up, always remember, always give. It's easy to receive their kindness without realizing what it costs them. Twos rarely ask for help, but that doesn't mean that they don't need it. They often give past their limits, hoping that someone will notice and return the favor. So take a moment to reflect. How can you show up for the twos in your life? Not just when they offer help, but when they truly need it. How to love your two. Loving your two means seeing them for who they really are, not just what they do. They create warmth and connection, often without anyone asking. That doesn't mean that they don't need acknowledgement. Twos give endlessly, but they need to hear that their worth isn't tied to their generosity. They are more than what they provide. Tell them that they are loved just for being who they are, not for the meals that they cook, not for favors that they do, or the way they show up for everyone else. And most importantly, encourage them to rest because even the biggest hearts need some time to recharge. And just for fun, we have a very serious r- chart that tells you how to give good hugs. These are the hug rules. there's one thing you need to know about twos, it's that hugs are serious business. They're not just a form of affection, they are a full emotional experience, and not all hugs are created equal. So before you attempt to hug or not hug a two, take a moment to study these guidelines.